Hey guys, tomorrow's medic here. Now this is going to be all about breaking bad news. Breaking bad news is something that comes up in a lot of interviews and particularly in role plays and can be a very, very difficult station. In fact, a lot of candidates say that this tends to be the hardest station out of them all, mainly because you have this washed up next man actor, didn't quite make the big spotlight of Hollywood, and is salty about it, and instead is spending his days trying to make these med school students absolutely miserable and give them a traumatizing experience. However, with my advice, this is not going to touch you at all. You're going to be able to combat everything that comes your way, because what I'm going to give you guys is I'm going to give you guys a protocol that actual doctors use in order to deliver bad news. And once you have this structure, once you have this protocol, you can face absolutely anything from these improv next man actors, and you should be well on your way to success in this station. So the protocol that I'm going to tell you guys is something called the Spikes protocol. It was adapted from this sort of research paper done by Bale et al. Back in 2000. So it's evidence-based research of this, and it's going to work very, very well. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure that you're in a private and an appropriate space. So make sure that there's no one else around, and that there is a comfortable, appropriate space to deliver the news. Then you want to make sure that you've introduced yourself to the person and ask them, do you have time to have a little chat in private to make sure that it's a time that's convenient for them. So that's how you should set up the interview. And then instead of going directly into breaking the bad news, you want to prepare the delivery of bad news in order to not shock the patient or person. So you should say, unfortunately, I've got some bad news for you, just to allow time for that to settle in so they can really prepare themselves and doesn't come across as a shock. Then you want to deliver the bad news directly. Make sure that when you do this, you express regret, apologies, and you're also going to show your empathy and compassion when you're delivering this answer. When you do deliver the bad news, make sure that you chunk the information into small pieces so that it's easy and clear to understand. Avoid the use of any jargon whatsoever. And when you give them a chunk of information, allow time for the patient to react and process what has gone on. Allow them time to ask any questions. So sometimes a bit of pause, a bit of silence is necessary in order to allow them time for them to process the information, as that's very, very important, and it's going to stop them being overwhelmed and make sure that they understand clearly everything that you've said. So now I've said when you deliver the bad news, you want to make sure that you're getting across empathy and you're showing compassion. How can you do this? There are a number of phrases that you can say. For instance, I'm so sorry to hear that. If they're in pain, are you okay to continue? Another neat trick is if the actor starts to cry, have a look around the interview room and look for any water or a cup or maybe a box of tissues, as those are quite cleverly and subtly placed in the interview room. Look for these little things and say, can I offer you a glass of water? Do you need any time? Offer them a tissue from the box of tissues if that's around. There's a number of little tactics that you can use to essentially really get across this empathy and compassion, which is very, very important. Now, once you've delivered the bad news, you want to essentially, summarize everything that you've said to make sure and try and check their understanding. And also, you then want to provide an action plan forward, as this gives the person a sense of control. It gives you greater control of the interaction, and also, it allows them to essentially think that it's not the end of the world. There are steps forward and there is things that can be done. So it really just helps to settle the bad news, and it's a very, very important and necessary thing to be done. Also, try and highlight to them in the ending any places for positive and practical support. For instance, if they need any further support, counseling, if they have any further questions, etc., where to get in touch. That's a very, very nice touch. So that is something called the Spikes protocol. This is literally how doctors, day in, day out, they use this protocol to deliver bad news. So now that you know it, it's going to put you in a huge, huge advantage over, you know, some other medical student who hasn't seen Tomorrow's Medic, and essentially walks in there, and then the actor starts crying on them, and they're like, oh, what do I do? So now you guys know exactly what to do. Make sure you like, subscribe, over and out.
Cheers.